because I'm getting low on gas. Right. Well, Don Roy was coming, and there comes this car blinking his lights, and he thought it was me. Out of gas. So he stopped, and it was the police. So they take him to jail. They call poor old Henry. Henry goes over to Corpus, gets him out, takes him home, turns him loose. I'm telling you.
I thought they took Tracy with them.
Well, they may have. I don't remember.
I beat them.
Wasn't you with
I was
them?
one ahead of them. No, they didn't catch me.
We didn't go to jail.
Don Roy did.
Yeah.
Johnny Young, Henry called Johnny Young. Johnny Young, he ended up being
Oh, did she?
the representative in Austin. He's the one who got Donald High. He's the one that had to look. But Henry called him. They let him go. Hell, we didn't want to pay that. Well, I don't think we had $1 to pay.
Hell no, didn't have no gas, couldn't have it.
Yeah, didn't have
But times were hard back then. Nobody had anything.
We
We
didn't
were
know
all,
it.
no, we all thought we were in good shape, but for some of you younger people during the war, I can remember that's when margarine first got popular. But all it was is you got a glob of Crisco oil with a little capsule that was orange dyed, and you mixed that orange into that Crisco, and then you had some things that made it look like butter, and that's what you smeared on. But we had tokens and coupons. Everything was rationed during the war. And you'd go to the store here, Mr. Gaulden's store, and you'd trade those in for items, sugar, and that was a real short supply. But we used to, Yancey Gillespie then at that time had what is Shorty's now, the pool hall. And once a month he would get a shipment in of bubble gum. And all the kids could go down, and for 1 penny you could get 1 piece of bubble gum, and that had to last you till next month. So those old songs about putting it on the bedstead at night, they're true. You chewed on that gum for a long time. 1 piece for a penny, that's all you got. It was hard times.
You know, I found a book of those stamps. Full book.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And the tokens, remember the little
Yeah.
tokens?
These
that
are
were
little
like-
square things, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
B, I think it was a B stamp or something like that.
Oh,
Found it in
yeah.
the trash.
You had different go. Put one on your car for gasoline, and the
Yeah.
green ones. And your book, I got some of them home. I don't have to buy regular books. And then you had red ones for me. Then they give you a red token back for your change. Stuff like that.
It was tough.
Found a whole red gum book that had never been opened.
When,
How come I don't remember?
when did they open
The
the,
older barn.
Well, you
Damn.
just don't remember that. You used to
Doing the
get
bar.
paper beans sometime.
do y'all remember when they opened the Port Theater?
I do.
When was that?
I remember the name of the movie, Lady in the Lake.
What, the first movie at the Port Theater? Lassie Come Home. It was a Lassie
Lady in the
movie.
Lake with Claire Trevor.
What
I was
year?
7 years
About what
old.
year? You were 7? About 1946?
I don't know.
It was about 46.
Somehow Daddy Wayman, we never had to pay. Daddy
He got that
whoever
big
owned
turtle
it,
for
we never had to
Remember
pay.
getting that big turtle guy on the show? Yeah. What was his name? He was a real estate man here for a long time.
Buddy Harris.
Buddy Harris.
Yeah.
He got, took Buddy out the boat, he caught a turtle. Almost big.
Yeah, he and I were big good friends.
I never paid either, but I just go up and lay there and watch.
We had a free pass for life.
The Port
Everything
Theater,
Bill
for
said in that
those
movie there.
who don't know what the Port Theater
I
is,
go
an
tell it.
outside theater.
Did I tell it to you?
No, don't you tell that.
You told me he's still doing it.
Pictures of Matthews. It was a big place, and they had the docks out there with 2x6s, you know, with cracks. And under those docks, the water lines would run. They had 2 2x4s come down, and then one on the bottom, and all the water lines and stuff ran under those docks. And we didn't have EPA then, and so all of the effluent, they just ran into the water when you'd flush the toilet. But we'd get under those docks and lay on those things and look up through those cracks, and people would walk over, you know, you could see all kinds of things. Looking up through those cracks.
Really good.
But there wasn't a whole lot to do here back then.
I'll tell the story. When he come back from service, he's a few years older than me. I had a crush on his wife back then, real bad. And I had a 41 Ford Convertible, chop channel Lord. It was painted titty pink. I'll never forget it. Dale bought him a brand new 55 Mercury, 2-door hardtop, black and white. And he said, "Hey, he see me coming down the beach in my old jalopy. I paid $125 for it." And he run at me. I said, "What?"
The hell is this? I put mine in second gear. He tried to get away from me, but I got him. Marlene said, I think you peed in your pants. Were you in there, Virginia?
No, Jack Weaver was with me.
Jack, so I thought they was with you.
No, Jack Weaver.
Did Blake Chicken win an award, did you?
No, don't have no sense. I run over Joyce one time with a Model T. I thought I'd hurt her.
You did, look at her.
Joyce, are you gonna be able to get up
She's
here?
gonna get up, and here she come running just hard as she could, and she jumped in at my, and you heard she, no. I run plumb over. She had to crank it. I wasn't big enough to crank the damn thing. She had to crank it. And that Model T, you had to hold that inside pedal, I guess, halfway in to crank it. Well, it started, and my foot slipped off of it, but I geared for it. Run over. right there behind Aunt Janie's house.
The reason I'm hearing most of all these tales, I was having it all happen to me.
Not only did they run over me, but he shot me.
Yeah, I shot her one time with a BB gun. Aunt Janie took my damn BB gun and broke it over the porch. I give $1.25 for it.
This is Hareling Lister, and Hareling Lister Haddon, and her sister Joyce Lister. They have another sister, Anna Lister, and then they have a brother, Skipper Lister. You might be familiar with Skipper, was principal here for a number of years. And then we have, up on stage, we have Dale again, and he's cousin to these two ladies. And then next
We're cousins, and we're cousins, and he's my brother.
there you go. We have Dale, and then we have Marcy Matthews Ward Thomas. And next to her and is her cousin, and their cousins. Marcy's father was Teddy Matthews, and her mother was Verda Marcy Matthews. And Verda's had a sister named Opal. You might remember Opal. And then they had a brother. His name was Merle, and his daughter was Lakita, who's sitting next to her. And then next to her is Manny, or Fred Matthews, who is Marcy's brother.
Lakita's first cousin.
Lakita's first cousin.
Dale's second cousin.
We're still.
We're not blood kin to Joe Tracy.
And Lakita's my mother-in-law. So yeah, when I married Mark, you know, our family had kind of always prided ourselves that we were not a part of that Matthews family. And then I married Mark, and there you go. And my brother, who was up here earlier, was married to Lakita's husband's niece. So that's why I say this Kevin Bacon. You know, you can go back and everybody. There's a you know, a common network, a common thread. But it doesn't mean that we're marrying our cousins or our brothers. It's just, you know, we don't think. You know.
You know what they say? Incest is best. It's a game the whole family can play.
Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy? Give a whole different definition. Okay. Now, all of these people here are pretty much the same age. Hairline's a baby.
Well, I don't look it, but I am.
I turned 70 today.
Yes, it's her birthday.
And I was 49 on November the 6th.
Again?
Okay, let's see. Well, y'all were talking about cars and some of Joyce's shenanigans.
I can help with that.
Okay, take off, Marcy.
All right. Joyce and I had kind of a gang going out here on the island. Joyce and I were the two girls in the gang. And the reason why we were in the gang is because I could usually provide the car And Joyce could outdrive anybody else, all the boys. And Joe was part of the group, Dale and all our cousins, friends. And what we did in evenings for entertainment was drive over the sand hills chasing jackrabbits, chasing kangaroo rats, and that was a lot of fun because you had to get out of the vehicle and chase them on foot. We'd drive down to the beach and chase the old ghost crabs, sand crabs. You had to chase them on foot too, and that was always fun. And then Joyce and I had, well, Dale lived in Ingleside, and he has more Merkovich cousins over there, so we would join with them when we went watermelon stealing. And so one night when we were stealing watermelon, Joyce told me, now you stay in the car and you do the driving, because that old man may have a shotgun and we're going under the fence. Well, they all went under the fence and disappeared, and then bluey, bluey. I heard the shotgun and sat there with the car running and ready to go. And when they hit those doors and shut them, we took off. And some other of our escapades included things like roping the stop signs along the causeway and things we could have gotten in trouble for doing had anybody seen us. What do you want to add, Joyce?
Well, on those roping the signs, we were reported, and they put us down in the post office, federal offense.
Because we stole every sign.
Yeah, every sign on this island, we roped it and pulled it down.
Do you mean your picture was in the post office?
Didn't they
No,
know?
not the picture.
It just said for information, so
Regarding from this, so much money.
much. And
Then they
Henry
tried to-
Olson kept telling us, he knew it was us, why don't we admit to it? We said, no, but I don't remember what we did with the signs.
When he called me,
Never got them back.
Oh, I had a backyard that was with a real high fence. I had a lot of those signs back there on the inside of the fence.
Well, it was a federal offense because we took one from the post office.
yeah.
I don't remember inviting any of the feds back there for
Well,
wine.
let me ask you, what did your mother and fathers think about this?
Oh,
Oh,
well.
They didn't know what we were doing.
you don't mention things like that.
Well, didn't they kind of see the signs and see
We
the...
didn't have it.
We didn't take them to our house. We weren't that stupid. Marcy was a stupid one. She took them home.
Marcy would do.
Yeah,
that's
that's
it.
true.
That's it. They wouldn't
Marcy
believe
was
it.
Miss
Marcy
Goody
was
Shoes.
sweetie.
There were two people on the island when I first got down here that you could talk to your parents and get permission to go any place. And that was Marcy and Catherine Aldrich. And if those two were in the crowd, then it must be a nice place you were going to. Because they wouldn't do anything wrong.
Mama thought, as long as I went
Catherine
with
here?
Marcy, I was fine. That's what Mama thought.
Poor Catherine, I used her a lot.
And now Catherine was the baby of the Teller family.
Yes.
The Teller family, you might have known, there was Nellie Studeman, she was the oldest, and then there was 5 boys. Tom Teller was one of them.
Herman,
And Mulligan Teller,
Charlie,
Charlie,
John.
Herman, and then the baby was Catherine Teller. So you had, Nellie was the oldest and Catherine was the youngest, and you had these 5 boys in between. And their dad was Captain Teller. He was the Coast Guard commander, captain. He was kind of a gruff guy, so I guess everybody felt that if Catherine did something and her father found out,
Of course, by the time I got here, Captain Teller had been dead for a long time.
Captain Teller.
It was
Well, there you
Mama
go.
Teller that
Yeah, they'd be afraid of
ruled
Mama
the
Teller.
roost.
Well, most people, even Joyce, like her leaving me to do the driving instead of climbing under the barbed wire fence, they tried to take care of me. because my dad, after all, was Teddy Matthews. And he was a big, dark, good-looking guy, and no one was going to cross him and get in trouble over me, so.
And also, too, Teddy Matthews, he was the baby, wasn't he?
Of the Matthews family.
Of the Matthews family, which is quite a few people. We had, there was about 10 of them.
10 kids.
And his daddy, tell a little bit about his about the Matthews family.
Okay, Bud, you want me to tell it?
Because there's a lot of them around here.
My grandfather ran away from home when he was about 14 or 15 years old. And home is now Croatia. He was in France when he was able to ship out on an English bark. And the English captain of the bark asked him what his name was, and he told him, I'm Tomas Andreas Yakasovic. So the captain was able to translate the Tomas and Andreas, but he didn't know what in the world to do with Yakasovic. And I've always been glad because the kids used to call me Jackasserovich. So anyway, he kept those papers instead of going through all that rigmarole every time he got another ship. He kept those papers with him and entered the United States as Tom Matthews. So that's how we got our name. So as far as going back in genealogy with the name of Matthews, it's not going to do us a bit of good. So. And then Grandpa lived in, Matt's grandpa, Dale's grandpa was Matt Bouillon, and it's my understanding that Matt Bouillon and my grandpa were cousins in the old country. And when they got to America, they didn't come together, but somehow they ended up on this coast. And his grandpa married Hannah Frondelige, and my grandpa married Elizabeth Frondelige. So we're kind of like doubled up cousins. Right?
But I'm the pretty side.
So my grandpa lived in Rockport. He was a fisherman. He had 4 sailing fishing boats and doing a good business when he realized that the men who were building the jetties were all foreigners, didn't speak any English. They had no place to go get for a drink in the evenings because they weren't welcome at the Tarpon Inn, and that was the only bar on the island. So, and Grandpa decided to build a bar, but he couldn't get a right to do that because the population wasn't big enough to accommodate 2 bars. So Grandpa built his bar on a barge and floated it out in the cove. And the guys could row out there or wade out in low tide, and that way he stayed out of trouble. So that was his first business here, but he also owned grocery stores, restaurants, and he was an entrepreneur. He just did everything besides have a large family.
And
Really busy then.
that family was, who was can you name them off?
Name all of them? I don't know where to begin. At the top would be Aunt Kate. She was the oldest, and every 2 years Grandma had a baby. And I don't know who would have come after Aunt Kate unless it was Tony Matthews, and then Bessie Matthews, Mary, Johnny, Martin, the one who died when he was 19 years old from a kidney disorder. Who? Aggie Matthews, Dora Matthews, Sam and Teddy. Now we got them all.
That's good.
Story here, Lynn.
My story might be just a story from Grandpa. Grandpa was a great tale maker of all stories. But his story was that he was in his sloop, which was a little boat with sails, and he was out fishing, and he came upon this boat, and the man was dead, and a sawfish, is that what you call them, had gone through his chest and killed him. And that was in the Corpus Christi Caller-Times. It was under Believe It or Not. Bouillon, crab bouillon.
My dad always insisted that the sawfish could cut a hole in the bottom of your boat. Some of you may remember the Cats and Jammer kids in the funny papers. And they always had a sawfish come along and saw a hole in the bottom of the boat. Well, Dad had me convinced that that could happen anytime we were out fishing. So I was always waiting to see that swordfish bill come through the bottom of the boat. Manny wasn't there because he got too seasick to go out.
Manny's the baby too. I've got a question here. It says, driving on the beach. How far could you drive down the beach?
All the way.
All the way.
Yeah, four-wheel drive.
Unless the pass was open, you couldn't get across.
Did they only go across the bridge, and then we go to Mexico.
But we had to drive on the beach, not up near the dunes.
Yeah, you had to get way down low water.
Yeah.
Low tide,
You
you
had
could
to go
go
out
anywhere.
little shell and big shell.
And were there any tourists here in the summer?
Not very many. I mean, when we went to the beach, we did not stop until we couldn't see people. Then we'd stop and have our little picnic. Or
And
go
how far
swimming.
would that be?
A couple of miles down from Avenue G. There just weren't that many people. And, well,
I think
You
when
know,
I moved here in 45,
Same ones every year.
there were 800 permanent residents, and it was swelled to 3,000 in the summertime.
Yeah.
So big difference now.
Lakita married Mulligan Teller. And Lakita, how old were you when you got married?
Now, did you have to bring that up? He took me out of the cradle.
Or you
I
didn't say?
remember exactly.
How old was she, Marcy?
Well, the night before she got married, she and I were down on